Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Moses and Missing. Also brought to you by Illuminatical, the think tank of the future, the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, now on Amazon. Also, High 10 Music, check out our latest at high10music.com. We're here with a terrific gentleman who grew up in San Francisco, a former chief of police with over 40 years experience in the security field, including vice president and also deputy chief security officer at NBC Universal, and also director of security in San Francisco. And he's all worked in 4 police departments, 3 private sectors. He's also author of an amazing series, which is the SFPD Homicide Inspector Series, including Oh, What a Tangle Web, and simply we're going to talk about hiding in plain sight. Live, ladies and gentlemen, plus dudes in beautiful downtown San Francisco, the former chief of police who grew up in San Francisco, 40 years in the security field experience as well, 4 police departments, 3 private sectors, and has a book called Hiding in Plain Sight. Ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Brian Brady. Brian, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's great to have you on board, Brian. So you grew up in San Francisco. You're a former chief of police with 40 years in the security field, including as vice president and also deputy chief security officer at NBC Universal Media, also director of security in San Francisco as well. You worked in 4 police departments, 3 private sectors. You're also author of the San Francisco Police Department Homicide Inspector Series, including Oh, What a Tangle Web, Hiding in Plain Sight, which is about opening at a school, basically at a playground where a serial killer shadows a girl and wants to abduct. When the body is discovered, it's a race against time. And before getting all that, Brian, tell us how I first got started.
Basically, over the years, and you mentioned I've been in 4 different departments, and I've had time in the private sector as well. I've met an incredible number of interesting people, and they all have great stories and interesting lives. And talking with friends, they would say, you got to write a book. You have these great stories. You have these interesting people. So after I retired from the museum in San Francisco, I actually sat down and I had compiled anecdotal information in a folder. So I started putting it together, and that's where the first story came from. And it's basically the inspectors are composites of people I've worked with over the years. And the stories are based loosely on real cases that were investigated in various departments or by people I worked with. So I got a little editorial license to embellish, but the gist of the stories are accurate.
Okay. And of course, we got more of that as well, too. And what was that one precise moment that simply influenced you, what you do in the rest of your career?
You know, that's probably, it was really people saying, you ought to do something with the information you have. And I really didn't realize I'd written a lot of this down anecdotally and stuck it in a file. So once I started pulling it out, it did seem like it would be interesting, and hopefully, people would identify with the characters. The stories are character driven, and you want your reader to be able to find something in that character they can identify with, and that hopefully they like. And you find as you write these, at least for me, as the characters evolve, I got to like the characters. I started with them as they were kind of inanimate objects, but as the story evolved, they did take on a life of their own, and it makes the writing a whole lot easier.
That's really interesting. And who is your favorite character?
I think the Liam is probably my favorite character. He's one of the inspectors who has ultimately ends up in a relationship with another inspector who comes from a different division. But he's an interesting character. He has his faults and his foibles, but he's got a good heart, and he tries to get it done. He cares. I think that's probably the most important fact. He cares.
And certainly did as well, too. You've got that spirit as well, too. How'd you first get involved with police work and security?
This goes back growing up in the city. There was a police inspector out of San Francisco named Jack Cleary, and Jack lived down the street from me. He's older, but I knew him obviously growing up, and then he went on the department, and you would see him in the neighborhood, and had an opportunity to talk with him, and he proved to be a great mentor, and he was probably the driving force that got me interested in law enforcement. And then later in my career, I started my career with Berkeley, and I worked on homicide in Berkeley, and we would handle, 14 homicides a year in Berkeley. San Francisco would do 100.
Wow.
So, although, today it's much lower, believe it or not, statistically, everyone's throwing stats around, but right now San Francisco's homicide rate is down. But anyway, long story short, I had the opportunity, and they were kind enough in San Francisco to let me come on my days off and shadow them and sit in on interviews and go to crime scenes and watch them work. I learned an incredible amount just shadowing those folks, and they were good to me. So I think when I started writing the book, I thought I'd make the San Francisco people the investigators.
That's rather interesting. And of course, the museum are as well too. People at NBC Universal Media, and even guys from the San Francisco Giants. Maybe he's feeling secure with you right now. So
the the Giants, yeah, that's my baseball team, obviously, and I've had season tickets with the Giants probably since the '80s, since I came back to the Bay Area. But the SFPD has been, like I said, they were good to me, and they gave me a lot of insight into, and you have the advantage of writing about San Francisco locations. And San Francisco is just such a great city as far as it's picturesque, and you can describing buildings and sunsets and things of that nature. It just provides you a myriad of opportunities.
And certainly did as well too. And of course, you had your share of homicide cases, serial killers, and everything like that, and had some interesting stories all tied in with being such a tangled web, but yet hiding in plain sight. We'll get to more of that with author Brian Brady. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love you first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews. An Evil 11 Night Doors by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and Menace. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also coming on Amazon.com, Mia Molson-Zia's Missing 2, and it's double the fun, double suspense, and double the action. Check it out, coming soon on Amazon.com. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Illumnithical, the think tank of the future, bringing scientists and engineers together from all over the world, creating a method to construct a renewable generator. This unique product operates on a closed-loop system, generating more energy internally than it needs to function. The extra electricity can be used to run everything from homes, power grids, phones, and laptops. This power source is renewable, highly scalable, and more importantly, self-regenerating. For more information, visit facebook.com/Illumnithical. It's ELLUMENIPTICAL today. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, 30 exquisite paintings, and more. The Sweet Psalmist gives us a new perspective of King David throughout the Psalms he wrote, and his time as a shepherd, and his turbulent yet complicated relationship with King Saul. It's a story of love, betrayal, repentance, and more. Check out The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon as well. Keyword Sweet Psalmist, Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by Hi-10 Music, featuring the smash hit Baby Comeback and her latest music. Check it out at hi10music.com. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, 40 podcast platforms. Heard 100 countries. Take us with you on any mobile device. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Spreaker, Facebook, Rumble, BitChute as well. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. Also brought to you by Mia Molson-Zia's Amazon as well, too. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. If you're interested in great gifts, email me to the Mike Wagner Show at gmail.com and support us on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. But here, a former chief of police, grew up in San Francisco, 40 years in the security field, and author of the new book, Hiding in Plain Sight, here on the Mike Wagner Show as part of the San Francisco Police Department Homicide Inspector Series. And let's talk about the first one. Oh, what a tangled web. And tell us more about that one. And certainly is tangled indeed.
It is. It actually starts out, it's a serial killer, and you can't miss with serial killers. Everybody wants to read about a serial killer. And this individual, preys on women who are involved in the sex trade and sex trafficking. So it deals a little bit with organized crime. It deals with a serial killer, and it deals with people who, are kind of running under the radar, so to speak. And the victims oftentimes aren't missed because they're either their families are far, far away. They've dropped off, as I said, the radar. And as a victim, they're the ideal victim in that they're not missed. So he's very selective, and it's a very difficult case to solve simply because the victims are individuals who don't hit the front page when they turn up missing.
Mm-hmm. And what about the second most sought after as well too? You have the sex trafficking workers and everything like that, the prostitutes, the most target. What's the second most targeted?
Runaways, people who come from oftentimes a difficult home situation, and sometimes you have a situation where you have a young runaway who will actually leave home at 17 and turn 18. Now they're an adult. No, they're no longer a juvenile runaway, and the amount of time as you spend looking for these people, when you initially contact the parents and you see what the home situation is, frequently the person ran away with good cause, and they're not going to contact their parents. They don't want to contact for whatever reason. And then once they become an adult, they get lost in this morass of sex trade, prostitution, drugs, a variety of other things. And if something happens to that person at that time, the parents have almost stopped looking for them. Law enforcement has stopped looking. They're an adult now, and they're just a non-entity.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you had some very serial killers in the past too, like the Zebra Killer. You had the Night Stalker. You also had the Zodiac Killer, and of course, the LA Strangler.
Yeah, we were. I was fortunate because of my connection with San Francisco to be able to sit in and talk to the inspectors who worked those cases and get firsthand information from them. And I imparted bits and pieces of that throughout the story. As I said, Jack Cleary, Frank Falzon, another inspector in the city who was instrumental in the Night Stalker case, and Dave Tashi on the Zodiac Killer. They all were just fantastic as far as sharing information, and they were just very welcoming.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what is the difference between Zebra Killer, Night Stalker, Zodiac Killer, LA Strangler? It's like, are they all the same or completely different? Like, how are they all intertwined, or how do they make themselves like really distinct? Separated, all that.
They were very distinct. The Night Stalker initially was targeting women, and then he ended up killing, excuse me, a man and a woman in San Francisco, and that kind of broke the pattern, which makes it a little more difficult. The Zebra killings were racially motivated. The Zodiac Killer has never been caught. He is still out there. You believe it's one of two people, but by the same token, that's a little bit different. And then the LA Strangler, the Hillside Strangler, that was two people working together. Again, very unusual. So each of them, they're very unique.
Mm-hmm. How about some of the other serial killers out there besides the ones you mentioned?
Well, most of them, I mean, they're going to continue to commit homicides until they get caught. It's not something that is a one-off. Obviously, the title serial, they're going to continue, and they are different. You look at Dahmer. He was a very different person than the gosh, I'm trying the guy's name, the serial killer who was targeting young college girls down in Florida.
It was what was that? Ted Bundy?
Bundy. Yes, I'm
Bundy,
sorry.
yeah, Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so again, you look at he and you look at Dahmer, they're very different, totally different. But again, they'll continue to commit the homicides until such time as they get caught. They get more brazen with each one.
Hmm. And how about the most difficult or the most unusual serial killer that you have encountered?
You know, I would think, and I didn't personally encounter the person that, but I think the Night Stalker was probably one of the strangest. Uh, like I said, he started with the victims were women, and then there was a man and a woman, and he traveled. He moved about. We had homicides in Los Angeles, homicides in San Francisco, and he was elusive and violent, and he's just a very strange individual, and very, I mean, incredibly dangerous.
Mhm. And of course, you hear about the traits of a serial killer, and of course, you worked with them, caught them and everything like that. Even the one you stopped one after the first kill as well.
Yeah, I think in his particular case, I think he would have conceivably killed again. I think he was sexually motivated. He targeted a young girl, 13-year-old, and he killed her, kidnapped her and killed her. And the hiding in plain sight is loosely based on that story. And the victim in hiding in plain sight is also a 13-year-old who's kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and murdered. And so that we caught him on the first one, and I think we did some good police work. We got lucky too, and you never can discount luck when you're investigating something like that.
Hmm. And how'd you manage to end up with that? And of course, with the serial killer, and of course, starting up with the girl and everything else, and how'd you manage to stop that? Of course, we're not giving away the ending and everything. It's like, how you pulled it off, how is different from the others, and most importantly, like, what was so distinct about that girl?
Uh, what's interesting in our case, in the real case, there was a piece of evidence that, again, there was a certain amount of luck involved. The suspect put the victim in a trash bag
Oh.
and dumped the body alongside the road, which is similar to what happens in the story. In the trash bag, there was an item in the bottom that he wasn't aware of that was unique. And when we emptied the bag, found the item, we were able to go, it was a printed item. We were able to go to a publisher, and we were able to find out who had purchased, it was a pamphlet, and who had purchased it. And we were able to trace the pamphlet back to locations, and finally back to a handful of locations, and ultimately to the correct location. So there was a slip up in that he was attempting to get rid of the body quickly and used the closest bag that was available, didn't look to see if there was any garbage in the bag. And in this case, there was, just happened to be this pamphlet. And that gave us the one clue that took us back to the correct location, and then finding him from there.
And what was that pamphlet?
Basically, it was a coloring book for
Oh my
children.
goodness. Coloring books of all things.
And it was a kid's coloring book, children's coloring book. So we were able to find out through the publisher who had purchased it, and it was unique, and it came back to 2 or 3 locales in our general area, and then we're able to narrow it down to one. So again, it's good police work, and I don't want to take anything away from all the detectives that worked on this, but at the same time, there was a little bit of a lucky break on that too.
Hmm. And of course, speaking of the breaks and everything else like that, that you see cops on TV trying to catch the serial killers. And of course, how you describe it is totally different from, TV homicide shows. It's like, where some of the homicide shows that, get close to what you got, some get it wrong, way off base, or just, kind of just mix here and there.
Well, they do it in 43 minutes with commercial breaks, so it's not that easy. The trouble is, and that's one of the problems with a lot of the TV shows, is that they are condensed, and they've got to get what turns out to be a week or a month's worth of investigation condensed into an hour show. So that makes it difficult. And then some of the shows. Some of the shows are good. I don't want to knock them. I don't mean, I enjoy watching them, and I think some do a pretty good job. But they are realistic. I think up to a point. It just doesn't happen that fast. Like DNA. Somebody gets a swab from somebody's fingernail, and they take it in, and on the show, 15 minutes later, they get a call from the lab with identifying the suspect. Well, it doesn't happen that fast.
Maybe think of what was it? Quincy Jack Klugman. He breaks in at the last minute. Your Honor, I've got the evidence.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. But DNA. Thank God for DNA. I mean, DNA has been an incredible game changer all the way around. I mean, it allowed us to put bad guys in jail 20, 30 years later, which is amazing. And at the same time, people like the Innocence Project, they've gone out there with DNA and got people released who were innocent. And you talk to people from the Innocence Project, and they really admit that their job is to make sure that someone who's innocent gets out, but at the same time, they also want to see that the person who did it gets caught. So the DNA works both ways, and it's been a lifesaver in a lot of these cases, especially, like I said, the cold cases.
And also, speaking of some of the TV shows, what are some of the ones that you enjoy watching, and what are some ones you just don't care for?
Well, I think, I guess the ones that are currently on the air, I think Blue Bloods is kind of an interesting show. I think, and I have, having worked at NBC, our company had West Coast offices and East Coast offices at 30 Rock in New York. And my counterparts in security world there were almost all ex-New York City police officers. So we worked together on a number of issues for the studio. But at the same time, you listen to them and some of their stories, and they didn't stray too far. Blue Bloods is pretty good. They do a pretty good job of depicting the New York City Police Department and how close-knit for a huge department, almost 40,000 police officers. It is a pretty close-knit group.
And how about CSI and NCIS?
I like both of the shows. CSI, the original CSI out of Vegas, that used to film on our lot at Universal. So we got to see firsthand how how they solved all their cases, and they were really, really nice people. And I thought they did a pretty good job. It's just that you don't have the CSI, the scientists. They aren't the ones going out making the arrests. That's a little bit a little bit wrong. And the same thing with the profiler cases, where the FBI profilers come in and then all of a sudden they run in and capture the bad guy kicking the door. Well, that's not what profilers do. They do a whole different aspect of the investigation. But for television, if it would be really boring to sit down and watch people at a computer going through incredible amount of information the FBI has collected over the years and extrapolating bits and pieces to put together a profile on a serial killer. That's not very exciting. I mean, from an investigative standpoint, it's fantastic, but it's not going to sell on a TV show. So you've got to build some action in, and in doing so, I think it loses a little bit from a police standpoint. It loses realism. Probably from a viewer standpoint that doesn't understand all of that, it's fine.
And I think I've learned some of that too. It's like watching shows back in the day, like Perry Mason, and I think there was also Columbo, and I think there was also I'm trying to think of there was Cannon. I think Barnaby Jones, and I'm thinking of some of the classics we had on as well too. It's like and they didn't have things like DNA, computers, and everything like that. It was just all old fashioned. They count serial killers the old fashioned way. You never thought of.
Yeah, and another old show was Police Story, that were based on Joseph Wambaugh's books, uh, who was former LA detective who turned author and was very successful. He's a fine writer and great descriptive writer. Wambaugh's one of those people who you pick up his book and you read a description of an individual and they could drop you at Times Square and you could find that person in Times Square. I mean, he's that good. I envy him. And Michael Conley's another one with Harry Bosch. I think Conley's done a fabulous job of creating this incredible character, this Harry Bosch. And then, of course, he's done what every would-be wannabe author, he took a character, turned him into a bestseller, then turned him into a TV series. So that's a pretty good deal.
And it sounds like, and who are some of your other favorite writers growing up besides the ones you mentioned?
I like, there's a local author, Sheldon Siegel. He's an attorney and he writes about attorneys in San Francisco. He lives over here in Mill Valley. And then I like John Grisham. And I think that Grisham and Siegel, they write about attorneys for the most part. And they are attorneys and they understand the law. And their books are accurate. They're factual. Their characters are doing things that are legally correct. They're doing things that actually do happen. And I think that's one of the reasons I like Conley and Wambaugh, that what they write about, Conley's not a cop, but he was a crime reporter for years. And he has lots of connections on the department and he's very, very intimately familiar with police investigations. So he knows whereof what he writes, as did Wamba. So I think they add an element of realism and accuracy. And I try to do that with mine, that I want to keep the story accurate. If I'm going to have some DNA evidence, I want to be sure that it's evidence that could actually be extracted. And the information that comes out of that, I want to be sure that's information that you really do get and can it legally be used. I want those things to actually resonate.
And of course, having DNA and all these modern procedures is making it a lot easier, more accurate. And do you think there's other ways you can make catching serial killers more accurate besides DNA and other methods?
This is going back to old-fashioned police work. It's New York calls it a canvas. We used to call it a neighborhood check when I started in Berkeley. And it's going door to door. It's knocking on doors. People see more than they realize. And it's up to you to talk to that person, make that person comfortable so that they will give you the information you're trying to find. And it may be, they're not trying to hide it. It's just that they don't necessarily know what they know. And if you're a good interviewer and you can sit down and have a conversation with someone and not make it an interrogation, frequently someone will come up with something, a car, something they saw that didn't, and it may be an afterthought. Gee, officer, I think, there was this car I saw that I didn't recognize it. It wasn't familiar and I didn't think about it before, and that may be all it takes. We had a kidnapping case where that's exactly what happened. A woman saw a car that didn't belong on the block and she actually wrote down the license plate.
Really interesting. I think I think that's key as well too, or what the person is wearing, what they're saying, or maybe walking with somebody, or some cases maybe they're walking the dog, or maybe carrying their bags of groceries a certain way, or bought something, or like a piece of clothing, like say a Kangol hat, some jewelry, or a T-shirt that said San Francisco Giants or something like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's people don't know what they know. I mean, they take in an incredible amount, and people who live on the block know the tempo of the block. They know who comes home at what time. They know who goes away at what time. I mean, the neighborhood watch. It's the little old lady who is retired, and she knows everybody on the. You got her. She knows everybody on the block. And you talk to her, she's going to be a wealth of information. But sometimes, people discount, oh, she's an old lady. She's that. No, she may have something for you. She may have that one piece of information that you're missing. And again, it's that skill set to be able to sit down and make that person comfortable so they'll open up to you. And I know it's difficult. And sometimes in situations where not a serial killer, but you get a shooting in a neighborhood where it's a drive-by, and people are afraid, and that's hard. And I understand that. I understand people's reticence to talk. But in cases like a serial killer, somebody who's skulking around a neighborhood, is somebody who's out there in the nighttime, someone who doesn't belong, it's going to be that neighbor who's going to spot that person.
And do you think the neighborhoods have gotten easier to talk to over time, or do you think with the current circumstances, what's going on in the world, you think it's gotten more difficult over time?
I'd say it's probably gotten more difficult over time, but I think that's on us in law enforcement to take the necessary step to be that good interview, to be a good listener. And it takes time. Sometimes it's boring, quite honestly, because you have to let someone talk, and they may want to tell you about something bad that happened to them. They want to tell you what their brother-in-law went through, and their sister that got stopped in Oklahoma for speeding and was treated. Boring, but let someone have the opportunity to talk. And when they get comfortable talking, then they're going to tell you more about what you want to find out. So set aside the necessary amount of time, be polite, be a good listener, and let the person talk.
And of course, doesn't hurt to have a cup of coffee if they offer you one too. So
absolutely. I mean, you want to be friendly. You want to be someone they can confide in. You want them to feel comfortable confiding in you.
And do you think also social media makes it easier or more difficult nowadays with the addition of social media?
Ooh, that's a tough one. The social media, it's a knife that cuts both ways. Sometimes on social media with cell phones and et cetera, there's information out there so fast. And sometimes it's stuff that you wish wasn't out there. There's things you'd like to hold back that you want to use later in an interview. But somebody's got their iPhone or their Android or whatever, and they're taking pictures, and it's boom, it's out there. And inadvertently, they can put a license plate in a background that you don't want out there. You might have a license plate of a witness, and they put that out there, and then somebody, starts to try and find out who those witnesses are, and they could inadvertently put somebody in jeopardy. Conversely, social media gets it out there, and somebody may call you and say, "Yeah, I saw this. It just happened, and I happen to see a car, or I happen to see somebody," and that's going to make a difference. Just recently in San Francisco, we had this issue with Ricky Pearsall, the 49ers wide receiver who got shot.
I remember that. Yes, I read about it. It was all over the news.
And the first officer asked him, could you describe the guy? And he said, of course, he's in shock. And he was able to say the guy's all in black. He's just totally dressed in black. And she was able to get that on the radio immediately. And there was a responding officer like a block and a half away. And he said, I got this guy, all dressed in black with a hoodie, etc., going down the street. So they stop him, and he's got the gun. It's the guy. So again, sometimes information getting out there quickly, that made a difference.
Especially somebody playing for the 49ers. I think that makes a big difference. Or the Giants, or the Sharks, or say with the Golden State Warriors or something.
And it was a tragic situation. And obviously we're thrilled that he's okay. And, thank goodness for being, 23 years old and in peak physical condition, that he was able to sustain a wound like that and come out of the hospital the next day. And now he's talking about playing in another 2 weeks. So you got to be 23 and in perfect physical condition to pull that off.
And of course, hopefully he plays this Sunday as well, or sometime as well too. And what's coming up with Brian Brady with more in hiding plain sight? We'll find out just 1 minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Moses Missing. Also brought to you by Elam Mythical, the think tank of the future. The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, now on Amazon. And Hayatan Music, check our latest at HaytanMusic.com. We'll be back to the multi-talented author Brian Brady of Hiding in Plain Sight after this time out. We're back with author Brian Brady of Hiding in Plain Sight, former chief of police, grew up in San Francisco, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And just one thing about Hiding in Plain Sight, where can we find that book and all your other books at?
Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and goldengatetales.com. That's my website. And there's a forum there. If someone had a question, be happy to answer it. And if somebody from Netflix is out there and they want to talk to me about doing a series, I'm there too.
I think that'd be nice to have on Netflix. You can teach them boys from CSI, NCIS, and all the others on how you guys want it done. So
that'd be fun. No question.
That sounds great. Okay, we're with author Brian Brady of Hiding in Plain Sight here on the Mike Wagner Show. Just a few more things, Brian. What else can we expect in 2024 and going into 2025?
Actually, there's a third book in the series that's finished. It's in final edit now, and I still haven't titled it, but it's I'm happy with. It's a little bit different, same characters, and this one goes a little bit outside the Bay Area. But ultimately, comes back to the Bay Area for resolution. And there's two others that are different. One is is just finished up editing. That's just kind of an adventure, dealing with a group of people who have some unique skills, who decide they're going to let themselves out as a counterforce against the pirates that are operating off the east coast of Africa. And then there's also another law enforcement book that goes outside the area, completely different characters, and it takes place up in the Wyoming, Montana area. So that's just about finished as well. So there's one, and then I have some ideas for a fourth on the San Francisco Inspector Series. I've got a new bad guy in mind, and I'm creating him at the moment.
Okay. And you can tell us all about when we have you back on. Just keep us updated. And who do you consider biggest influence in a career?
I'm sorry?
Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Probably Jack Cleary, the one I mentioned, the San Francisco Homicide Inspector. He was probably the best interviewer I've ever encountered. He could sit down with the most hardened individual and have a conversation, literally. And it was never threatening. It was never intimidating. For lack of a better word, it was friendly. It was incredible. And he, at the end of the conversation, he had all the information that he needed. And the people were, they were on their way to San Quentin, but they were shaking his hand going out the door. It was amazing. Just an incredible talent.
Certainly did as well, too. We need more people like that. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Well, if somebody wants to write a book, somebody wants to take a stab at it, I think probably the best advice is it's a job. You can't, you really have to be a little bit disciplined. And that was hard for me, to set aside time to write. And sometimes you don't have a lot of great ideas, but write. And even if you sit down and just write about what you see out the window, write about what you did yesterday, it's just so you keep the juices flowing, you keep writing and make it part of your job, because your job is to write. Your job is to finish the book. And you can't just take a stab at it and then come back 3 weeks later and try and pick it up. It just doesn't work.
You can even write about the Giants or the 49ers.
I could. I've been writing emails to the former president of baseball operations. He was just replaced today. Thank God.
Yeah, I did read about that. What was his name? Rafi or something?
Farhan.
That was it. Yeah.
And they replaced him with Buster Posey, which is a great move. I think Buster will be he was a great player, and he's a great guy. He and his wife have a juvenile cancer foundation here in the Bay Area. They're great people in the community, and I think he'll be plus he's played the game. He's been a Giant. He knows the franchise. I think he'll be terrific.
And certainly indeed as well, too. We're here with author Brian Brady of Hiding in Plain Sight here on the Mike Wagner Show. Brian, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you again soon. Just keep in touch. Keep us up to date. Love to have you back. And once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your books?
Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and the website is goldengatetales.com.
All right, well, certainly check that out. Once again, Brian, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We love to have you back. We wish you all the best. And Brian, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you, Mike.